King Saul's jealousy of David had reached its breaking point. He called in his servants and even his own son Jonathan with a shocking order: kill David. But Jonathan couldn't do it. David wasn't just a soldier, he was his best friend. That night, Jonathan warned David, "Hide. I'll talk to my father." The next morning, Jonathan pleaded with Saul, "Dad, don't sin against David. He's risked his life for this nation. Remember when he killed Goliath? That was God's victory through him. Why should innocent blood?" For a moment, Saul softened. He vowed, "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be killed." David returned to serve the king. But peace never lasts when jealousy rules the heart. Soon another war broke out. David crushed the Philistines again, and the people cheered his name. Saul's envy flared. One evening, as David played music to soothe him, Saul suddenly hurled a spear across the room. It slammed into the wall. David barely escaped with his life. At home, his wife Michal whispered urgently, "If you don't leave tonight, you'll be dead by morning." She lowered David out the window. To buy him time, she placed a dummy in the bed, covering it with blankets to make it look like David was asleep. When Saul's men stormed the house, she said, "He's sick in bed." But they ripped off the covers and realized they'd been tricked. Saul was furious, but it was too late. David was gone. He ran to Samuel, the prophet of God. And when Saul sent soldiers to capture him, God's spirit overpowered them. They began prophesying instead of fighting. Saul sent more men. The same thing happened again. Finally, Saul himself came, and God's spirit stripped him of all dignity. David escaped, not by his sword, but because God himself fought for him. Here are some lessons. 1. Jealousy blinds. Jealousy blinds us to the blessings God has placed around us. Saul forgot David brought him countless victories. If you let bitterness grow, you'll end up attacking the very people meant to help you. 2. True friends defend you behind your back. Jonathan risked his very life when he stood up to Saul. Remember, it could cost him everything. Real friends speak up for you when you're not in the room. 3. God provides escape routes. David had no army and nowhere to hide, but God used Michal's quick thinking to open a way out. Sometimes God's deliverance comes through ordinary people, wise counsels and decisions, or unexpected strategies. 4. God's power is greater than man's plans. Saul sent soldiers, but God's spirit stopped them cold. Human authority, weapons, or schemes can never override God's purpose. So, remember, when people plot against you, God has the final say, not them. David escaped not because he was the fastest runner or best fighter, but because God's hand was on him. Your enemies may form weapons, but they won't prosper because God himself is your shield.